"Get out. You don't belong here." The voice, cold and laced with dismissal, echoed across polished marble, bouncing between gold-framed doors and high glass windows. Heads snapped toward the source, eyes narrowing, lips tightening, posture shifting as if everyone suddenly understood their morning's entertainment had arrived. In the doorway stood Marcus Reed, tall, composed, wrapped in the elegance of a charcoal suit tailored to perfection. The soft glint of gold cufflinks winked under the lobby lights, their understated luxury telling a quiet story of taste and success. In his hand, an invitation embossed on thick cardstock, the kind that didn't bend easily, the kind that told you it was meant for the select few. But the assistant blocking his way didn't look at the invitation. She looked at him. And in that single look was an entire sentence. She didn't say aloud, one that Marcus had been hearing his entire life in different forms. Phones tilted discreetly. Whispered words rode the air. A few faces softened with sympathy, but most wore the expression of people who thought they understood what they were seeing. Security arrived quickly. 2 uniformed men with clipped radios and the calm, controlled movements of people used to removing problems. They didn't ask questions. They didn't scan the invitation. They simply moved into place, flanking Marcus like a silent verdict. He didn't resist. His steps were steady, his eyes forward. The cameras followed him, the murmurs swelling behind him. By the time the heavy glass doors closed at his back, someone had already uploaded a shaky video clip titled, "Man Tries to Crash High-Profile Auction." What the world didn't know, what no one in that lobby could have guessed, was that Marcus had arrived at this moment not to be included, but to make history. Marcus Reed's story didn't begin in marble lobbies. It began in a cramped apartment on the east side of the city, in a neighborhood where opportunity didn't live, but occasionally passed through like a rumor. His mother worked double shifts in a nursing home, her hands calloused from years of lifting more than her own weight. His father, gone before Marcus learned to tie his own shoes, existed only in a single faded photograph tucked into the corner of a mirror. Money was always tight, but Marcus had a gift. He could see patterns where others saw chaos. At 12, he was running a small trading game at school, swapping and reselling sneakers, watches, and anything else that could turn a profit. By 16, he'd saved enough to buy his first stock, a struggling tech company no one believed in. 2 years later, that stock's value had tripled. He didn't sell, he understood patience. College brought him into spaces where he was often the only one who looked like him in the room. The lessons were never just about finance or strategy, they were about endurance, about reading the subtle codes of access, about understanding that not all doors were meant to be knocked on. Some were meant to be walked around entirely. His first major investment win came when he identified a failing logistics company with undervalued assets. He didn't buy the company outright, he bought its debts. Within a year, the company's board came to him not as a rival, but as a savior. That deal cemented his philosophy. Control the debt, and you control the future. The company at the center of today's auction was different. Once a powerhouse in the manufacturing sector, it had supplied parts to industries across the globe. Its name had been synonymous with quality and innovation. But years of reckless spending, executive scandals, and botched expansions had hollowed it out. The market smelled blood long before bankruptcy was declared. Marcus had been watching. While the media speculated on possible buyers, he was already moving in silence. Through a web of holding companies and private trusts, he began buying up the company's debts, small pieces at first, then larger tranches as panic set in, and creditors scrambled to get out. Every acquisition was another thread in the net he was weaving. By the time the auction was announced, Marcus controlled enough debt to have a say in the company's ultimate fate. Back at the auction building, the marble lobby was alive with energy. Inside the grand hall, rows of padded chairs faced a raised platform. behind which a massive projection screen displayed the company's name and logo one last time. The air was thick with money, not just the scent of expensive cologne and freshly pressed wool, but the unspoken tension of competition. These were the industry's heavy hitters, each convinced they were here to win. They didn't know the game was already over. Marcus, now outside, didn't linger on the sidewalk. He slipped into a waiting car, the tinted windows closing him off from the noise behind. As the vehicle pulled away, he pulled out his phone and scanned the messages coming in. The bidding war was exactly as expected: aggressive, inflated, desperate, perfect. Inside, the auctioneer's voice rose and fell like the tide, guiding the room through each round. Numbers leapt higher, hands shot up faster. The final gavel fell to a name most in the room didn't recognize. Some whispered about newcomers in the market. Others guessed foreign capital. None guessed the truth. Days later, the truth began to take shape. An invitation-only press event was held in a gleaming downtown tower. Journalists filled the room, cameras ready, pens poised. The winning bidder stepped up first, delivering a smooth speech about revitalization and vision. Then, with deliberate slowness, he turned and gestured toward the wings. Marcus Reed stepped into the light. The shift in the room was instant. Eyes widened. Pens paused mid-word. The cameras clicked in a staccato rhythm. Those who had been in the auction lobby just days earlier felt the flush of recognition and the sting of having underestimated him so completely. The public reaction was electric. Side-by-side videos flooded social media. Marcus being removed from the auction set against the moment he was introduced as co-owner. Captions called it karma, strategy, and a masterclass in playing the long game. Comment sections lit up with praise and disbelief. News anchors replayed the clips with knowing smiles. For Marcus, the real satisfaction wasn't in the applause. It was in the quiet, controlled execution of a plan that had unfolded exactly as intended. In the weeks that followed, he moved quickly. The company's leadership was restructured. Entire departments were overhauled. New contracts were signed. Slowly, the narrative shifted. The headlines about scandal and collapse were replaced with stories of innovation and recovery. Marcus didn't just own a piece of the company, he was reshaping it entirely. From his corner office, the city skyline spread before him like a map of future possibilities. He thought of that morning at the auction, of the assistant's cold dismissal, the smirks, the cameras. He didn't feel anger, he felt clarity. Because power wasn't about being allowed in. It was about taking the keys. Ownership speaks louder than insults. Strategy outlasts arrogance. And the real power? It's never in the seat they give you, it's in the one you take for yourself. Subscribe now, because the next story will prove once again that the comeback will always be stronger than the fall.